Hi everyone. Today in my presentation, I'm going to talk about cell. So what is a cell exactly? In this picture, in these three pictures, what is the similarity that you can see? Like I would like to ask you a question. What do you think is the foundation to make these three buildings? Brick, right? So we can say that cell is almost like a brick. Cell is a basic structural, functional, and biological unit of all known organisms. Now, who named who gave the term cell? Robert Hooke gave the term cell. What did he do is, this is the bark of the oak tree, which is used, it can be used to make cork. And when he observed it under the microscope, he noticed a structure like this, a honeycomb-like structure, where it looks like tiny rooms all over. So he's the first person to see the cell and named it as cell. Now coming to what are the plant cells and how do you see human cells? To see a plant cell, a small experiment that we can do is take an onion, peel the outermost layer, and then observe it under the microscope. You can use any stain so that you can see the structure more clearly. And to observe human cells, you can take a spoon or like a swab of your cheek cells and then observe it under the microscope. So this is how a human cheek cell looks, and this is how a plant cell looks. This point, the center of the cell, which is taking the stain, you can see it more clearly. This is called nucleus. We'll talk about this in the later slide. Now coming to what is a plant cell and what is an animal cell? What are the differences? So this is a plant cell and this is an animal cell. Now, what is the major difference between a plant cell and an animal cell is, plant cell has a outermost layer called cell wall, whereas animals does not have. So that is the main factor where you can distinguish. So cell wall is the outermost layer, which is made up of cellulose. It protects the cell and also gives rigidity to the cell. And cell membrane is the outer layer of the cell, which helps in permeability, like for the fluids to come in and out of the cell. Now, cytoplasm is everything inside the cell, like in between nucleus and the cell membrane, everything inside. This is called as cytoplasm. Now coming to what is nucleus? So nucleus is the organelle where the genetic information is stored, like chromosomes and DNA. So what is this meant by genetic material is, like suppose when you go to your relative's house or a family gathering, they say that you might look similar to your father. That is because of the genes that have been passed from one generation to another. That is all happening because of the nucleus. Now coming to mitochondria. Mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. And vacuole, it is basically like the storage room in your house where you store all kinds of things like good and bad and waste stuff. So this is like the storage of the cell. Now coming to chloroplast. So first of all, what is meant by chloroplast? You can divide it into two. It is plastid, which is having chlorophyll. So now what is a plastid exactly? Plastid is the substance which is giving the green color. Like you can notice some leaves are green, some are yellow, and some are red in color. Not all the plants have green leaves, right? So if a plant is having a green leaf, it means it has chloroplast. That is the plastid which is having chlorophyll. What is a chlorophyll now? Chlorophyll is the green colored pigment which helps in photosynthesis. Okay, so here you can see green colored chloroplast. So of course, the leaves will be green in color. And the animal cell is pretty much similar, but then there is no cell wall. So I hope you guys understood the major differences. Now I'll explain it again. The cell wall is the outermost layer, which is giving the rigidity, made up of cellulose, and the inner layer is made up of cell membrane. which helps in the permeability. Both are semi-permeable, cell wall and cell membrane, helps in moving of the fluids inside and out of the cell. And nucleus is the cell organelle where the genetic information is being stored. Cytoplasm is the membrane in between the cell membrane, the fluid between the cell membrane and the nucleus. Mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, and vacuole is like the storage organelle, and chloroplast are the plastids that have chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is the green colored pigment which helps in photosynthesis. So now coming to, there is one more structure called stomata. So stomata, like these are the two guard cells in a plant cell, and when they are swollen, the stoma can be seen, like this opening can be seen. So this is the pores on the plant skin through which water and gases are exchanged in between the plant and the atmosphere. So basically stomata also help in photosynthesis. Now we have studied about what are the parts, like, again, let me repeat it because it's very important for the basics. Cell wall is the rigid structure made up of cellulose. It provides strength and structure. It allows fluid to move freely. Cell membrane separates the cell from the outer atmosphere. Everything that is within the cell membrane is cytoplasm, and nucleus is where the DNA is stored and protected. Chloroplast, the plastids which have chlorophyll, that is the green pigment which helps in photosynthesis. Do you know something? The cells in the brain are actually more than the stars in the Milky Way. So we have so many cells. Now, what is a unicellular organism and what is a multicellular organism? Organisms that are made up of only a single cell are called as unicellular organism. And as the name suggests, multicellular means organism that is made up of two or more cells. So examples of unicellular organisms are amoeba, fungi, yeast, and multicellular are mammals, reptiles. So let me tell you some interesting fact. So here you can see a hen, right? Hen's egg. You know what? This is also unicellular. And when it hatches and then chick comes out, that is multicellular. And this is an ostrich egg which weighs around like 1.5 kgs. This is also a unicellular organism. Now coming to multicellular organisms. Like I told you, an organism made up of two or more cells. It's called multicellular organisms. Birds, mammals, reptiles, fish, all are multicellular organisms. Now, coming to the transfer section of the dicot plant. So what is a monocot or a dicot stem? So basically the seeds which contain only a single or one embryonic layer, leaf or cotyledon is called as monocot. Dicot means the seed is containing two embryonic layers or cotyledons. Like for example, chickpea, you can see something like this, right? So it has two cotyledons. So when you take a transfer section of a dicot stem, this is of a spinach, you can see four groups of cells. Okay, you can see the outermost layer that is called group A cells. Group A cells is the outermost layer which gives the shape to it as well as the protection. And group B is green colored layer. Basically group B is green colored layer, so which helps in photosynthesis. Like you see, major portion of the stem that is made up of group B cells, it helps in photosynthesis. And group C cells are the xylem and the phloem, which we'll talk about it later in the another video, which helps in transportation of food and water. And group D cell is the innermost layer of the stem, where you can see many hollow structures. So there are four groups. Outermost group of cells are called group A cells, which gives protection, and it is the outermost layer. It is actually epidermis. And the green color layer, it helps in photosynthesis. What is photosynthesis? The plants use sunlight and carbon dioxide in order to make energy. So this process is called as photosynthesis. And group C cells are the cells which helps in the transport of food and water. And group D cells are the innermost cells, which have many hollow structures. So I hope you guys have understood what is a cell, what are the functions, what is unicellular and multicellular organisms, and what are the 4 types of cells that you can see in a dicot stem. I hope you guys have understood. Thank you so much for watching.